So they say that the reputation of the law requires she be held behind bars. Omar Khadr, convicted terrorist, war criminal, murderer. I guess that didn't bring the justice system into disrepute. I was just going through different cases of accused murderers who have been let out on bail. I just don't understand how Tamara Lich, who is a harmless political organizer, the worst thing she ever did was say the phrase, "hold the line," which I don't know quite what that even means if all the truckers have left Ottawa. I don't know how what mischief she could get up to if the truckers are gone. But that was used to keep her behind bars.
Yeah, well, I mean, I won't get into, different cases for comparison because each case is going to turn on its facts. What I will state is you've correctly identified, Ezra, that quite often when looking at that third criterion, we're often going to be looking at the severity of the offense and the harms that come with it. And granted, this was by no means a means offense. This was, it's generally unusual for a person to be detained on mischief alone, although Ms. Lich was charged with another offense as well. But nothing about this has been usual. This has been quite unprecedented. And what Justice Bourgeois really, for lack of better terminology, hung her hat on was that this was a protest or a demonstration that contributed to, in her words, the financial, physical, and mental harm to the people of Ottawa. Her view was that Ms. Lich was counseling and continued to counsel at the time of her arrest when the truckers were still there. It was for that reason that Her Honor believed that there'd be a substantial likelihood that she would continue to counsel more mischief.
Well, she better stay in prison then, I guess. I didn't see it till afterwards, but this judge, Bourgeois is her name, is a liberal. Now, normally I don't think I would heavily remark on that because most judges have a political hue, which is how they suck up to the justice minister of the day. And typically liberal justice ministers appoint liberal lawyers and conservative justices appoint liberal lawyers. But what's different about this judge is she wasn't just a liberal, she was a liberal candidate for whom Justin Trudeau campaigned. There's a video circulating of Trudeau stumping for this judge when she was a lawyer. She failed as a political candidate, was given the appointment to the bench, and of all the judges in Ottawa, she was the one assigned this case, and her ruling was very political. How would this judge have been chosen for this case? Could the government have shopped around and chosen their judge? Would it have been assigned by the chief judge? Of all the judges in the country, to hear the case of Trudeau's most unrepentant political critic, for it to go to this judge seems highly unusual to me.
Yeah, I don't know, Ezra. I really don't have too much comment about that. I don't have any reason to think or comment about this being a politically motivated appointment to the case. All I can state is in Canada, we are very, very lucky to have a very well-appointed judiciary with a lot of integrity and wit. And I just have nothing but confidence in the members of our bench. They serve with a lot of integrity, and they're some of the top legal minds in the country.
Well, I think you are saying what you have to say as an officer of the court. And, of course, you don't want the Law Society to come after you. So fair deal. I'll leave that alone. Now, I was surprised to learn because I was following along. I wasn't watching the video online. I was watching other journalists live tweet it. And it didn't feel to me like Tamara Lich had legal counsel. The things she was saying, the things that her guarantor were saying felt like they were unpracticed or felt like they were just providing too easy a way for the government to hold her in jail. But you're saying that there was a lawyer, and I think I confirmed that the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms actually did hire senior legal counsel for her. Is that true?
She was represented by counsel, yes. And in response to what you just said, Ezra, this was a bail hearing with probably some of the most unusual evidence that you could expect. Very little was usual about this bail hearing. It was quite entertaining. I think what you might be alluding to really is the way in which her proposed surety testified. It wasn't great.
So the proposed surety, that's basically if someone says, look, I'll take responsibility for this woman. I'll make sure that she doesn't get into trouble. I'll keep an eye peeled on her. That's what you mean by a surety, the person who is basically going to say, I'll be a human checker-upper, Your Honor. Is that right?
Yeah, basically your jailer in the community, a responsible person to ensure that the accused is abiding by the conditions of his or her release.
And you think that maybe some of the things that the proposed guarantor or surety said may have given, you say was entertaining or unusual. Is there anything in particular you can tell us about it? Like what was weird about it?
Well, the top thing that came to my mind was the Crown prosecutor questioned her husband, the proposed surety, as to how he had come to Ottawa. And this is in the context of him stating that he didn't really have many finances, or he wasn't eating very much when he came to Ottawa. And yet he noted that he came to Ottawa by plane, and it came out later in evidence that he came by private plane. Now, when pressed on who paid for his ticket, he said he didn't know the person who paid for his ticket. He then changed his answer and stated that he didn't want to give his name, and then he gave his first name. So that was a bit of evasive testimony that I really think disqualified him as a person the court could count on to be a surety.
Well, that is too bad if that's the case. I can understand why someone would not want to disclose who helped a fella fly out there, given the witch hunt. I'm guessing that he was afraid that if he named whoever sent the plane, that he would cause that person to have their bank account frozen. I mean, it sounds goofy from one point of view, but another point of view is I'm pretty sure that if that person were identified, they would find themselves with their plane seized, their bank account seized, and their business license or their insurance canceled. I mean, I don't think it's quite as goofy as it looks. I think it's because we live under suspended civil liberties right now. That's my explanation of what you just said.
Yeah, well, we still don't know who that person is, and people have their loyalties, no doubt. I think one thing that you're alluding to, Ezra, is a lot of what's going on down there has been symptomatic of the divided country, and there are people who are going to take one position or the other, and are going to be looked on with a lot of suspicion by those on the other side.
When is the hearing? So how long is she going to be in jail now? Is there a date set, or is she going to be in jail indefinitely? Does it make sense to try and appeal this bail ruling, or is she going to be out in a week or so anyways?
So what can happen, what normally would happen is after 90 days, there would be a detention review. If there hasn't been a review already, a judge of the Superior Court would look to see whether or not the detention should have been ordered and whether or not that person should still be detained. And the purpose of that is to ensure that people don't need to languish in custody unnecessarily. What can happen in the interim and before that is under Section 520 of the Criminal Code, the accused can request the court to review the order to see whether or not it should have been made in the first place. And whether or not that's going to happen soon, I'm not sure.
Well, I think it's notable that again, I'm not sure if I would call her the leader of the truckers. I think the truckers were in many ways leaderless. But I think if anyone could be called the leader of the truckers, it would be her. And it's remarkable to me that the most effective political organizer or political critic of Justin Trudeau in years is thrown in prison for mischief reasons. And We just think that's fine as a society. No, not serious crimes, one of the most minor crimes in the criminal code, because her husband didn't want to say who sent him on a plane out there. So she languishes in prison for up to 90 days or longer. I think that's deeply disgraceful on the same legal system that claimed to put her in jail to keep up the reputation of the legal system, throwing Trudeau's political opponent in prison for 90 days. I don't think that has the effect that Judge Bourgeois wants. That's an excerpt from my daily show, The Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. You gotta subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.